Talk about, can you afford a coach? Well, obviously, as being a coach, I'm going to be a little bit biased, but it's more than what you think. Let's get on with the show. So I'm Lawrence Tam from lawrencetam.com. I just want to really get into here to talk about something of importance, because I had a chiropractor reach out to me who's a new grad from the United States, and she emailed me and said, when is it a good time to invest in a coach? Well, that's a really good question. Really, what I think she was asking is, can I afford a coach right now? And when is a good time to actually invest? And when do I know? Well, here's a really great question to think about. If you think about considering about a coach, what is a coach? Right? Well, coach is someone obviously who it's not a practice management. Let's distinguish between the two. There's coaches that are practice management people who are really focused on providing you skills and systems and training material and goes, here, follow this and do this, and you will be successful. That's practice management. Not necessarily call that a coach. A coach really is to be able to really be able to see where you want to go, and more importantly, where you're starting from. And the third element is looking at the values that you're willing to sacrifice or not sacrifice so that you can get to from point A to point B, and guiding you through that process. That's a coach. Well, obviously I am biased, I am a coach, so therefore I want to answer this question really specifically, because it's really important you actually understand the context for this. Because what you're asking is, can I afford a coach? And my understanding is that anybody who is, if you are a person right now thinking about, I want to grow personally, I want to grow in my business, and of course I believe that you need a coach, but it doesn't always have to be about money. And that's the big thing that kind of gets people stuck. So let's think about this for a second. All top athletes in the world, any sport, has a coach, right? They have a fitness coach, they have a nutritional coach, they have a skills coach, or they have a team coach. Every musician that I know has a coach. They have a singing coach, a voice coach, a business coach, or a marketing coach, so on and so forth. Even top executives have coaches in any company, right? If you're good enough you want to have a mindset coach, you want to have a strategy coach, you want to have a business coach, or life coach of some sort. In my experience is that I actually currently have three specific coaches. I have a mindset coach that keeps me in line, make sure my mind is in the right place. I also have a coach for my marketing side of my business, and then I also have a strategy coach to help me with terms of strategy on how I attack things in terms of what to try to achieve my specific goals. In chiropractic, oftentimes is that we fall into this question of like, can I afford this coach or not? Can I afford coaching? Well, to answer this particular person's question, I said to her very specifically, well, you don't need to necessarily think about coaching as always spending money. So what I mean by that is you need to consider a couple of the key elements. Number one is that let's go into a diagram model, right? It depends on where you are. And a coach is important. So the general aspect I want to really help you understand is that a coach is important no matter what stage or career you're actually in. The decision you need to make is, what can I invest? It depends on the level you're at the moment. So let's think about, and let's talk through a couple of elements here. Number one is that at first, that if you're starting out, you're in a startup practice, right? So you're in a startup phase and you're a new grad, or you just come out of practice, you're not going to have really a lot of money, right? If anything, you have very little because you have student debts and so on and so forth. The second stage is I believe that you move to is what I call a standard practice, right? Or what I call a plateau practice, because this is where a lot of chiropractors get stuck. They get stuck in this position, and they first feel like they stuck in this plateau and they can't grow beyond that. Then there's a third level. That's what I'd really help a lot of people here, is actually take people from a standard or plateau practice to a profit practice. That's what I excel in, to help people engage into a profit practice, because what we want to have is we want to get at least to an ability where 50% or more in your business is profit. That's what we want to get to. And the other element, of course, lastly, is that once we can actually create profit, then you have a choice to get into what we call a freedom practice. I mean, all of these are choices, but we need to know where we're at. And let me explain that, because at the beginning, when you're in startup, you're not going to have a lot of money, but you do have a lot of what? You have a lot of time and energy. And so what I'm going to represent that over here is that it's going to be represented as a time. Okay, that's a clock, but you have a lot of time at the beginning, right? Because you don't have, usually when you're a new grad, you don't have kids, typically you don't have kids, you have a lot of time and energy, and usually a lot younger, so which means you have all this energy to actually want to grow. But problem is right now, but you might not actually have a lot of money, but you have a lot of time and energy, so you can utilize that as an asset. You need to see your time, energy, and your youth as an asset versus money is only the asset you actually have. But as you start to grow, what you start to realize that you start to earn a little bit more money. And as you get to a profit practice, you have a lot more money. But what do you have less of? Well, what you have less of is actually time. Because as you start to grow your practice and you start to get up to this space, you have less and less time and energy, which means that your time becomes more valuable to you versus the amount of money you actually have. Because let's face it, right? The more money you earn, the less time you actually have, or more time is more precious. So if you start to calculate your numbers per hour, at the beginning, you might be able to have time to go and do your own CA job, and you may be able to clean up your own practices and stuff. But as you earn more and more money, you realize that that job could be done by someone who's earning $20 or $30 an hour, and you are earning $500 per hour. So it's not worth spending that time or energy for you to go and do that. So therefore, you just got to understand what scale you're actually in. But what's interesting enough is that when you get through a profit practice and actually move to the next level here, is that you need to kind of understand is that there's actually another level, that freedom practice level, and that freedom practice level, it's an interesting thing, because what you're then doing there is that you're not just buying more money. Of course, your money actually you might not need more money than what you already have, but what you're actually trying to strive for is actually more time. So the balance of freedom practice, what we try to strive for in those people is that we actually help them to get more money and more time, more profit and more time, because that's what's really important for them at that specific time period. So what's here is important is that you got to know is like, if we're going to invest into some kind of coaching, and you're talking about investing, is that you need to invest is like, what do I have to invest? What's my asset at the moment? Is it money that I have time invest? Is it money do I have to invest, or is it time that I have to invest? Because if you're starting as a new grad, you actually have a lot more time and energy to invest in versus money. But if you start to grow into a standard or plateau practice or heading into a profit practice, you have more money, but you have less time. So which means then that you're actually searching for a different type of coaching, because the coaching now involves in more about how do I shorten up. The value becomes more about how do I get more in the least amount of time, versus at the beginning is that you have all the time and energy to actually execute the results. And so what I mean by that is that you need to kind of be very clear on what that looks like. And so let me kind of show you in a different diagram to talk about cost and money, because I think this will kind of give you some a little bit of more of an idea that will kind of get you to better understanding. So let me just kind of draw this out for you. If you look at this right now, is that you're looking at versus, because what it comes down to, everybody worry is about price, right? So everybody looks at the price and goes, can I afford this? And they kind of focus on this price model. But what you're looking for is really, what you're asking yourself is actually looking for value. Am I getting value? Well, what is the price? Well, when I'm pricing as a coach, what I'm pricing for is that you're kind of looking at, well, what the time, the energy, right? And money, obviously, and what we talked about. Those are the three assets you're actually looking for and what you can expend. And so, like I said before, if you're a new grad, you're going to have a lot more time and energy versus money. But if you're actually more experienced and you have money experience in your belt, you have more money than time and energy. So therefore, it's a contrast. So how do you see value? Well, you're going to evaluate each one of these differently. So for example, is that you're going to value time as going, is this a cost to me, or am I going to save time? So what I mean by that, for example, is that when you're actually when you're not starting out, when you're actually in practice, for just say you've been in 10 years in practice, if I need to go from like 150 to 200, and what am I going to engage in a coaching is not going to make me increase my time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to engage in a coaching that helps me save time, which means that they're going to give me some shortcuts in terms of my thinking or my mindset to kind of get to that level that's going to shortcut that. So that's how you're going to see the value. And so it depends on what you're looking for. And so in this case, in terms of energy perspective, is what I'm going to engage in terms of coaching, is it going to decrease my energy, like in the sense of it's going to cost me energy, or am I actually going to increase my energy because I'm more excited and more passionate about it? So what I mean by that is there's a couple of chiropractors I've been engaged with recently is that, they've been 20 years in practice and they've just lost that spark. They've lost that energy. They lost that passion. And what really is engaging me is for not necessarily to grow their practice, but to really find their spark again, right? Sometimes that is more important than the actual earning more money. Money, of course, profit, of course, that's important, but they're actually trying to find that ability to kind of get back. The other thing is about money, right? what you're evaluating there when you talk about the value, what you're evaluating is cost, right? Is it going to cost me? What is it going to cost me? But what you're actually going to consider is what's the growth. See, I'll give you an example. One of the key elements is that people kind of go like, okay, well, what is like joining Nitro will cost me? To the truth reality is that the cost is actually about only 6 to 7 patients a week. If I can help you grow 6 or 7 patients a week, you can afford Nitro. But I'm not going to take on anybody. I'm going to take on someone who actually values my time and energy and also their time and money and energy so that they can actually grow. So is it the cost? Are you going to look at the cost or the price of the particular program or thing that you're executing? Or are you actually going to get the growth that you want? Because if I can't help you grow 6 or 7 patients a week, then it's not worth it. There's no value. But if I actually increase it by 10 or more, right, per week, then all of a sudden, like the value becomes easy. It's a no-brainer. But people don't look at it that way, you see? So anytime you engage in a program or anytime you engage in a product that you want to invest in, you got to look at what you're investing in. What are you going to get in return? And what you should be looking at is not the price, but the value. Well, why does this matter? It's not about selling you into my program. Trust me, it's not. It's about you helping you understand how patients see you. See, we are thinking about patients are judging you on a chiropractic adjustment based on price. But they're not. What you need to help them understand is the value that you're actually providing as a chiropractor. And so if you can learn to translate that, if you can help them understand that, that makes it all a massive difference. And so the key element here is that you need to understand, the summary of this is this. Number one is that when you're starting as a new grad, you don't have a lot of money, but you have definitely a lot of time and energy. I would invest a lot of time into that. Right? Spend a lot of time and energy to go investigate. That doesn't cost you a lot of money, but you have a lot of time and energy to go after those things, which means that you can study, you can go learn, you can go do all those things to actually get the value you need to go to. And so that when you start to move up the level, right, from the bottom level to your startup, you can actually, when you start to earn more, then you can be able to invest more, which then allows you to spend less time on those things. We do this all the time. Every single one of you do. When you think about a meal, you go to a restaurant, right? Restaurant-wise, like you go to a restaurant because, yes, it costs you more money. It would be a lot cheaper if you actually made it at home, but but the value that you get when you go out to a restaurant is the quality of the food and plus someone is preparing, which saves me time and energy to cook it, but it costs me more in terms of money. So it's everything that you do and buy and invest is always about investment of time, energy, and money, and that balance and fluctuation. So the question is like, when you look into coaching, it's like, what do you need right now? So I would look at it as like, what are you trying to achieve in 3 years' time? Look at it in 3 years' time, what are you trying to achieve? And then break it down and go, in the next year, what do I need to learn? What's the obstacles that's stopping me from getting to the person I need to be to achieve that goal in 3 years' time? Is it skills? Is it developing my strength? Or do I need a particular strategy? And then decide based on my availability of my asset, which is time, money, or energy, which can I invest in? Which one of those skills, strengths, or strategy am I willing to invest in right now? And when you can start to do that, then you can start to elevate yourself moving from one model to the next. That's how you know whether you can afford to coaching and in terms of which coaching program should I go to. And decide based on not so much on the price, but based on the value that you're going to get. And everybody's going to be different because going back to this model, someone who's a new grad, their needs are going to be very different than the person who's in a plateau practice moving towards a profit practice, right? Because their needs are going to be different. They have more time to focus on new patients, for example, versus the plateau practice. What they need isn't more new patients. They might just need to have better mindset and better terms of strategies to help them move to the next level. Oftentimes people are looking for strategies all the time, but strategies don't solve all the problems. What you're looking for is the key element that's stopping you specifically to move on to the next level. Let's talk about new grads for a quick second. I've been thinking about new grads for a long time. I don't serve the new grads because I don't have any programs for them, but I do know that I can help them. So what I decided to do is I want to offer an absolutely free thing. I actually been asking around, like, I can do this to help you. So if you are a new graduate or someone who's just struggling, who's seeing less than 100, because I don't serve anybody who's less than 100, but I want to make this available and for free. So what I've decided to do is actually just created this program for 12 weeks starting in July. It's absolutely free. There's no charge. I'm not even upselling anything. So just go there, register if you're interested, and spread spread the word, please. I want to help chiropractors help themselves to be able to get better, and so that we can actually serve more people, because I believe that we're in that position. So all you have to do is go on the link below, which is lawrencetam.com/academy, register there, and I'll give you all the details of when they're going to be. You can join me live and I'll do some Q&A, and that's all I can really help. I want to be able to help you through that process. But if you know that you are well beyond 100 and you're stuck, you don't know what to do, and you want to have a conversation, then I would suggest you consider joining Nitro, or at least have a conversation with me around Nitro. This is what it's about, and if this interests you in some way, then please go to the link, go to joinnitro.com and figure that out. I hope this has been helpful for you, to help you understand when can you afford coaching, and when you should go to coaching.
It's all well and good to have a successful practice, but in the grand scheme of things, I want to make an impact.
The biggest thing that it's enabled me to do is to develop better relationships with people.
The reason I joined was because I was feeling a bit isolated in practice.
Now I feel like I have a tribe.
Lawrence definitely provides a really good insight from outside of my square.
You really start to find your true identity. When you're part of a group that supports you, which is what I feel Nitro does, you get some quality results.
I was caught up in the hustle side of chiropractic, so now having that freedom, still being just as busy and even more successful.
I think that we all elevate and rise together.
It really allows me to face my own fears and blockages.
It's about being with like-minded people, but being about people who want the same thing, which is like this willingness to support each other and hold each other accountable at the same time.
We went from seeing an average of 140, 150 people to seeing now 250 people.
I do have the confidence to have that voice and make those changes, and I definitely wouldn't have been able to do that without Nitro.
It's not trying to create me to be something else, it's trying to create me to be the best version of me.